there is a section of BMITE curriculum, and you will find a syllabus for each course that we have for you. Now, those syllabi can be found. They're broken down by cluster, and I think we've talked that till we're blue in the face. You know, you've shown us in the chat box that you know which cluster you're teaching in. So what we want for you to do with each of your syllabi, we want you to customize it. So the ones that you're going to open up with us on the website, they will have Career Tech at the top of them, and you can leave that at the top of them. But we would love it if we saw your school name. We want your name in the course. At the bottom of each syllabi, I think, let me see, I'm going to share with you. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I want to share with you one of these that we already actually, I want you to see one so we can talk about it. And let me find it. I'm so sorry, you guys. Wouldn't you know? Here it is. Okay. One of the important things that we want you to do, here is where you'll see your Career Tech BMITE heading. Put your school logo in there. Put your name up at the top of this, this syllabus. You don't have to leave this exactly like it is. You can space it out how you need to. What you do need to make sure is that you have the course number.
Christine, will you, I'm sorry, zoom into it a little bit?
I would love to if I can figure out how to do that. Is that working?
That's working, thank you.
No, thank you for letting me know. Okay. In your syllabus, you want to make sure you have your course description. And you want to make sure that you have each one of your competencies listed on your syllabus. So for every, and not every syllabus is going to be lengthy like Fundamentals of Technology. This just happens to be one that has several competencies. And if you knew anything about Career Tech before, you knew that this one was much longer. And we've actually, Kathy's worked really hard with some teachers and kind of narrowed this one down. So let's scroll to the bottom. Here is where it will list out all of the testing options that are available for your syllabus, for your class. Now, this is just information. This is recommendations. You choose the test that you want to use. You can choose whichever testing company, choose whichever test you want to use. Once you have chosen which company you're going with, then remove the rest of these. You want to make this specifically for your classroom, so that way when one of your students takes it home and says, hey mom, this is what I'm learning, then they can go, okay, you're taking that one precision test, you're not taking all 4 of those, or all 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tests. Here are some recommended resources and online resources. Now these are great resources, but if you're not going to use all of these resources, don't leave them on the syllabus. Just to make sure that you have what you're using for your class, that you put that on that syllabus. And these may not be resources that you use. You may find something that you think is better that covers the material a little bit better. So you totally want to make this all about your course so that when your student comes and looks at it, they know exactly what to expect. These are just all kinds of resources for this course. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to try to go back to that PowerPoint. We'll see how that works. Okay. I think we got everything in there. You want to make sure that you're including all the competencies. Now, it may be that you add in here, you may add in some extra things that you want to cover in the class, but make sure that you have at least covered the required competencies from the syllabus. Your testing options, we talked about that at the bottom of the syllabus. There are so many different options. Once you have chosen, make sure that you narrow it down to exactly what your students will be taking. We recommend that you maintain test records for 3 years minimum. We've seen some great spreadsheets. Teachers will create a spreadsheet with their students' names through their classes, because a lot of times our students repeat courses with us. They'll take different courses with us, so you can tell what all they've taken and can maintain records for even for an evaluation. The curriculum, you can choose anything. There are the recommended resources on that syllabus, but you have the choice to teach it however you want to teach it, as long as you are covering those competencies. You're probably going to have to use more than 1 or 2 resources, and we would like for you to use an online component because it's a technology course. OCAS codes. OCAS is the Oklahoma Cost Accounting System. Those are the 8,000 numbers that we want you need to make sure that your courses are. So I know every year I taught the same courses for several years in a row, but it never failed that for some reason when maybe our counselor would pull up the course, she might accidentally pick up a different number with kind of a similar title. So always go back and check just to make sure that they have your courses listed as 8,000 level courses. Oklahoma's Promise. This is very important. It will be listed on the syllabus as well. Students that qualify for Oklahoma's Promise need a certain amount of courses. I don't know exactly how this all works, so you may need to pipe in with me, Jackie. Anything to add?
Christy, I'm sorry, I was typing in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
So what was your question?
Oklahoma's Promise. I know that Oklahoma's Promise is super important. How many courses do they have to have?
Well, they can have up to 3, but most places just do 2 courses. And we have a number of courses that are approved for Oklahoma Promise credit. And that will be included on the syllabus. And most of the testing guides will also tell you if it's Oklahoma Promise. So they should be able to find it in both locations.
Jackie, I'm not sure, you kind of froze up there at one point, but this is one of those where you have, this is the alternative to foreign language. So they have to have 2 courses of computer science credit to be able to count that on their transcript towards Oklahoma Promise credit. So if they just took fundamentals of technology, for example, that's the only thing that they have. They would have to come up with another course to be able to count the 2 credits that they need. They couldn't just count one of them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They have to have 2 at least. And then there's an optional 3rd elective that they could count if they had a 3rd course that was approved for Oklahoma Promise credit. So they can get up to 3.
Okay, thank you.
And let me just say, this is a really big deal in that if students qualify for Oklahoma Promise, this is a state funding stream for those students. If their home income is less, I believe it's still less than 50,000, then they can qualify for, depending on where they stand, they can qualify for tuition and books towards their college expenses. And in some cases, it could be also be room as well, depending on what their situation is. But, if for some reason they don't get all their requirements from 9th grade through the 12th grade, in some cases 8th grade through the 12th grade, if they don't get all their credits in, they're in jeopardy of losing that funding. So they wouldn't get that funding when they go to college. And so obviously that's a really big deal. So you can't misrepresent a course. You have to make sure it's one that is Oklahoma Promise approved, and you have to follow the syllabus. you know, the student has to participate and complete all the competencies of that course in order to get that credit. So all of that's really important if a student is getting Oklahoma Promise credit.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, all of you ladies.
And Jackie answered a question.
Christy, I was going to also add, oh, okay. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, I was just going to say, Jackie answered a question in the chat box that I think would be good for everyone to hear, because it might be something they're wondering also about the testing.
Okay. Yes. And, you know, somebody asked if they have an unfunded program, if how are they going to pay for testing if there's a cost associated with it. So I mentioned that some of our courses do have the testing division course tests available, and those are free. So like Fund of Tech does have an option for that. So you might want to check that. When you go to the testing guides, it's going to list all those options. You can just look across. It makes it a little easier than looking at each syllabus. But each syllabus will also tell you that information. I was also going to mention that in order for them to qualify for Oklahoma Promise, they actually have to enroll in the 9th or 10th grade.
Okay.
Except they can do fundamentals of tech at the 8th grade level if their board has approved 8th grade for credit towards their graduation. So the boards have to approve that.
Okay. All right. We will move on here. Curriculum crosswalking. Now, I have to admit, and Jackie knows my secrets, it took me a long time to finally, I had several courses I was working through, and it took me a long time to get that last course crosswalked. I believe the week I started this job a year ago was the same week that I had my 5-year evaluation. And I think I barely squeaked in getting that last crosswalk done. But I have to tell you, I wish that I would have done it sooner, because I learned a lot from just doing the crosswalk in that course. Crosswalking means you are taking each standard from that syllabus and you are showing on paper how you're covering that for your students. Now we have templates in CTU, just a blank template that you can create with the course title and the competencies. There are several already out there. We don't expect for you to have this done before school starts. My recommendation is do it as you go. As you're doing your lesson plans, look over at your competencies and see what you're covering and see how you're covering them, and list it in your crosswalk. And each year you may change a few things, so you're going to want to update it regularly. So if you know you're changing something this year that you did differently last year, then that's something that you can just go back and change. You're not having to rewrite the course. Having a crosswalk is valuable information because you know that you're covering everything. You would be specific. Let us know what textbook. Let us know if it's a website or a video. And hey, am I already at the end? What? 10:50. Are we early? Do we have questions? This is an activity that Jackie, I stole it from Jackie, but I would recommend you finding a syllabus for your course and make your changes to it, customize it, figure out which test you're going to use. And once you do one of them, it will make it a little bit easier, and you're going to see it's not something to stress about. But we would welcome you taking our syllabus, each syllabus that we have that you can use, and that way your competencies are already there and all of the information is there and not left off. Okay, what kind of questions? Are there any more questions? I will stop sharing this.
Put that link into the chat, please.
Yes.
Christy, if you don't mind, I want to share with them. You didn't share the testing guide, did you? A copy of that?
I did not, no.
Let me pop that up on the screen, and just so they can see what that looks like. I pulled the one up that Jackie did for the business management cluster.
Yes.
So So what this does is for any course that's offered in the business management cluster area, you're going to find the course listed by alphabetically along the left, and you'll find a column for what's the required testing that would be a national certification test. And in this case, for Accounting 1, QuickBooks Certified User is a Certiport exam that could be used if your school has the money to pay for those certification exams. But you'll notice this is the column where that question that was asked in the chat about not having funding for an unfunded program, the ODCTE, that's the State Department of Career Tech, that's our acronym, Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education. We do have a testing division that does have limited number of tests. So if there is and those are free. So the free ODCTE tests are going to be listed in this column for any of our courses. And in this case, there are two options that your student could take if Accounting 1 was the course that they were taking. So they could take accounts payable or accounts receivable. And then there is a precision exam test that's available. That's a test that you have to pay for. And you know, we can get you more information on precision testing. They've done some partnering with us in BPA. They have a lot of really good tests, but there is a fee associated with that. And then what we formerly used to call brain bench testing is now SHL Talent Central. And these are the tests that could be an option for this course. You'll see the required testing, you are to choose one. So any one of these three tests, accounts payable, receivable, or data entry, could be counted as your test for Accounting 1. So when you have your syllabus, you would pick, if Accounting 1 was my course, I would pick one of these testing options that I want to do. If it's the free testing here, then I would remove the other tests that are on the syllabus. On my syllabus for my school, I'd remove those other tests because it's just confusing for the kids. So I would just keep the tests that I've picked that they're going to take at the end of the year and leave that on the syllabus. So as you scroll down, you know, it's just alphabetical. It will have every one of the courses listed. Again, you can find this all on the syllabus, but the testing guide is just another resource for you to quickly identify all the courses that you're teaching and find the test that's associated with that. And there's a testing guide for each cluster out on CTU under the curriculum tab in BMITE Teacher Resources.
Okay, one question that came up in the chat was, do they only have to take one of the tests? And so I did answer in the chat, it depends on the course. For example, Fundamentals of Administrative Technologies has 4 tests for that. And so you will want to do that if you're doing SHL Talent Central. You know, it may be down to 3 actually, because I think they've removed one of those tests. So there's just 3 now, but they should be taking those. So if it says choose one, you'll notice how Carrie has brought this up right here. It says choose one, so you have that option. If it doesn't say that, then you should be, you know, looking at both of them, especially under the SHL Talent Central. Also, you've got the screen up where Fundamentals of Technology is, Carrie. And, you know, the Certiport has come out with a new test that only requires 1 to complete all those competencies. Those of you that might have looked at this in the past, if you were using GS5, then they have to take actually 3 specific tests to pass for that test to get the full test credit. But if you are using the new test with Certiport, then they only have to take 1 test. And there's 3 different levels. So you go from the introductory level and then move on up and become more expert.
Jackie or Carrie, for Brain Bench, that is formerly Brain Bench, now SHL, how do they access it? Is there a different way to access it? I'm not sure about that.
There is going to be a different way to access it, and that's all going to be coming soon. We're going to roll that out at Oklahoma Summit. There's going to be training on that. They're going to set up videos, but it's going to be a whole new platform. So they're going to have information on contracting, you know, how you go about setting up your contract, because you actually work directly with SHL to set up your individual contracts for that. But it looks like right now that each PID number, each program area, it will cost, what was it, 550? Is that what they landed on, Jackie?
I think so.
Yeah, I think, and that allows you access for all of your students, any number of tests that they provide through SHL, which there's a ton of them. Any of them have access to that for that price, and you're able to do, you can pre-test them in the fall, and you can do a post-test, then a final test in the spring for your students, and that helps you kind of guide the direction that you want to go with your students. If you have a group that's having trouble in specific areas, you can spend more time on those areas than the other areas if you do a pre-test with them. And we kind of recommend you do that as kind of your beginning of school activities when you're doing your safety test and, you know, getting settled and introducing BPA or DECA. You could go ahead and pre-test if you're doing the SHL testing.
Wes Moore voiced his concern over Brain Bench having been a nightmare. And I want to say, Wes, coming from the classroom last year, I had the same experience with Brain Bench that you did, obviously. However, it's a completely different ballgame now. They are on top of things, courses are changing. So my recommendation is to give them another chance and see what they can do for you now. And then after this year, if you're still not pleased with them, then that would definitely be something to change. But I 100% recommend giving them another chance. It's
and what they did is they acquired another company that had more tests, a more variety of tests and updated tests. They acquired that company, so they acquired that group of tests, that platform. And so we've completely switched platforms and tests onto this new Talent Central platform that's replaced the Brain Bench. So we're in high hopes. We've been working with them all summer long, and they've listened to us. They've heard your frustrations through us, because we've been really frustrated with them as well. And you know, we think they're on the right track. They're really trying, and they want to know if there's things outdated that we feel like they need to change. And so I think we've got someone listening to us now, and they're responding to our requests, and they're making changes. You know, they've made changes all summer long as we've expressed concern. So we are very hopeful that that's going to change.
We also need to just a quick explanation of the testing. Again, also that on the testing guide, you do not have to offer one test from each column. You are only offering one test total. That's all you're required to do. And so we just give all of those options based on what does your district use. Do you use Brain Bench, or do you use the ODCTE test, or do you use Precision? So you're only required to offer one of those tests, not one from each column, just one total.
It might be one, unless there's multiple tests. For instance, this Fundamentals of Administrative Technologies. And if you're doing the Talent Central testing, you would actually have to give all three of these tests, the Word, Excel, and Office Procedures exams. You would give all three of those, but it's just under one of these columns. So if you're doing SHL, you don't have to do the Precision, and you don't have to do this one. You would just pick so you pick which column you want to go, that you want to do your testing in. And that's what I was saying. Then you eliminate those other options, take them off of your syllabus. Just put the ones that you're actually testing your students on, because they're going to get confused as well. You mean I have to take all these tests? No, you just have to, you have to figure out which ones you're going to give them. And those are the ones you're going to list on your one, or however many is in that section. If you're doing Precision exams, there's 2 tests listed here for Precision exams that you would need to do for this course.
Okay, I hate to cut us short. If there are still questions at the end of the day, we are going to do some more question and answer session. But we do need to get going. It's time for Jackie to start talking to you about Oklahoma Summit. Jackie?